When's your wedding, Jasline? My mother's voice rang across the Thanksgiving table like a verdict I'd already been convicted of. My sister Yasmin smiled that perfect smile, her diamond catching the candlelight. 23 people stared at me waiting. I set down my fork, looked my mother dead in the eye, and said 5 words that shattered everything. Had mine last month, actually. What happened next wasn't just revenge. It was the dismantling of a family hierarchy that had crushed me for 32 years. If you've ever been the invisible voiceless child, the backup plan, the one they forgot to celebrate, stay with me. This story is for every person who was told they weren't enough. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our stories. Leave a comment where you are watching from, because by the end, you'll understand why silence is the sharpest weapon you can carry. I used to think love was something you earned through patience. That if I stayed quiet enough, worked hard enough, achieved enough, my family would finally see me the way they saw Yasmin. I was wrong. Some people aren't blind. They just choose who deserves their vision. By now you should grab your cup of coffee and stay with me as we ride together on this story. My name is Jasline Hassan, and I'm a senior data analyst for one of the largest e-commerce platforms in Europe. I build algorithms that predict consumer behavior, optimize supply chains, and save companies millions. My work has been featured in industry publications. I've spoken at 3 international conferences. I own my flat in North London outright, no mortgage, paid off by 30. On paper I'm successful. In my mother's eyes, I was still waiting for my life to start. Yasmin, on the other hand, was the sun around which our entire family orbited. 2 years younger than me, married at 26 to Omar, a corporate lawyer whose family owned property across 3 countries. Their wedding had been a 3-day spectacle: crystal chandeliers, a live orchestra, 500 guests, and a custom gown that cost more than my first car. I'd been a bridesmaid, of course, standing in a dress I didn't choose, smiling in photos that would hang in my parents' hallway for years. No one asked me how I felt watching my younger sister get the fairy tale while I was still introduced as our eldest, the one who works with computers. The truth is, I stopped waiting for my parents' approval around the same time I stopped expecting them to remember my birthday without a Facebook reminder. I built my own life, quietly and deliberately, without their input. And when I met Jacob, a German software engineer with kind eyes and a laugh that felt like safety, I didn't tell them. Why would I? They'd find something wrong with him. Either he is too quiet, or he is not Arab, or he is not as wealthy as Omar. Jacob and I dated for 2 years. We traveled and we built a home together. We planned a future that didn't require anyone's permission. And when he proposed during a weekend trip to Edinburgh, standing on Arthur's Seat with the city glowing below us, I said yes without hesitation. We decided to elope. Just us, 2 witnesses, a small ceremony at a registry office, and a photographer to capture the day we chose each other. It was perfect and intimate. I didn't tell my family because I knew what would happen. My mother would cry about being excluded. My father would go silent and disappointed. Yasmin would make it about her somehow, maybe remind everyone how proper her wedding was. And I'd spend months defending my choice instead of enjoying my marriage. So I didn't tell them. I got married on a sunny Saturday in May, wore a simple cream dress, held a bouquet of wildflowers, and promised my life to a man who saw me. Really saw me. We had dinner at our favorite restaurant afterward, laughed until our cheeks hurt, and went home as husband and wife. No drama and no performance. It was just us. For 6 months I lived in that quiet happiness. Jacob and I settled into married life, hosted small dinners with friends, and started talking about buying a larger place. I wore my ring every day, a delicate gold band with a small sapphire, nothing flashy, exactly my style. But when I visited my parents, I slipped it off. Not out of shame. Out of self-preservation. I knew the reckoning would come eventually. I just didn't expect it to happen at Thanksgiving, surrounded by aunts, uncles, cousins, and the entire extended Hassan clan, all gathered to celebrate Yasmin's announcement that she and Omar were expecting their first child. The house smelled like roasted lamb and cardamom. My mother had outdone herself, as she always did when Yasmin was involved. The table was set with the good china, candles flickered in crystal holders, and everyone was dressed like we were attending a gala instead of a family dinner. I'd arrived alone. Jacob was visiting his parents in Berlin, and I could feel the unspoken questions before I even took off my coat. "Where's your boyfriend?" my Aunt Farida asked, eyes sharp with curiosity. "Traveling," I said simply, hanging my jacket. Still not serious then, she pressed. I smiled. Very serious, actually. She hummed, unconvinced, and moved on to greet someone more interesting. Dinner started with the usual chaos. Too many people, too much food, overlapping conversations in Arabic and English. Yasmin sat at the center, glowing in a way that had nothing to do with pregnancy and everything to do with the attention she'd learned to command since birth. Omar sat beside her, proud and polished, playing his role as the golden son-in-law. I sat near the end of the table between a cousin I barely knew and an uncle who spent the entire meal on his phone. No one asked me about work. No one asked me about my life. I was decoration, background noise, the dependable eldest daughter who would always show up and never make waves. Then came dessert. My mother stood holding a glass of sparkling cider and began her toast. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she began, her voice warm and performative. Family means everything to us, and having you all here to celebrate Yasmin and Omar's wonderful news makes my heart so full. Everyone clapped. Yasmin beamed. Omar nodded graciously. Yasmin's wedding was one of the happiest days of my life, my mother continued, her eyes misting over. And now we're about to welcome a grandchild. I couldn't be more blessed. More applause. I forced a smile, lifting my glass like everyone else. But then my mother's gaze shifted, landed on me, and her expression changed, just slightly, a flicker of something that looked almost like pity. And Jasline, she said, her voice dropping into that careful tone people use when they're about to say something cruel disguised as concern. When is your wedding? We're all still waiting. The table went quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of a shared moment, but the ugly quiet of people bracing for impact. I felt 23 pairs of eyes lock onto me. My cousin Layla smirked into her napkin. My Aunt Farida leaned forward, hungry for my discomfort. Yasmin didn't even try to hide her smile. I should have let it go. I should have laughed it off, made some deflecting joke about being married to my career. That's what the old Jasline would have done. The Jasline who swallowed her hurt to keep the peace. But the ring was in my purse. The photos were on my phone. And something inside me, something that had been bending for 32 years, finally snapped. I set down my glass. The clink of crystal against wood cut through the silence. Actually, I said, my voice calm, clear, and loud enough for everyone to hear, I had mine last month. The room didn't just go quiet. It went still. Someone's fork scraped against a plate. My father's hand froze halfway to his mouth. My mother blinked, her smile locked in place like a glitch. What? She said. My wedding, I repeated, reaching into my purse. I got married in May. Registry office in Camden. Small ceremony. Just Jacob and me and 2 witnesses. I pulled out my phone, opened my photos and slid it across the table toward my mother. Here, I said. In case you want to see what you missed. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, heavy with shock, confusion, and the kind of anger that doesn't know where to land. My mother stared at my phone like it was evidence of a crime. On the screen, me in my cream dress, Jacob in his navy suit, both of us grinning outside the registry office, hands intertwined, rings gleaming in the sunlight. My father was the first to speak, his voice low and tight. You got married. Yes. Without telling us. Yes. Yasmin laughed, sharp, disbelieving. You're joking. I'm not. My mother finally picked up the phone, her hands trembling slightly. She swiped through the photos slowly, her expression shifting from confusion to hurt to something colder. Why would you do this? She whispered. I could have lied. Could have said it was spontaneous, that we didn't have time to plan, that we'd meant to tell them but it slipped our minds. But I was done protecting their feelings at the expense of my own. Because I wanted a wedding that was about me and Jacob, I said evenly. Not a performance or a spectacle. Just us. We're your family, my mother said, her voice cracking. Are you? The question came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take it back. Aunt Farida gasped. Uncle Rashid muttered something in Arabic. Yasmin's smile had vanished, replaced by something uglier. Indignation maybe, or jealousy that I'd stolen even a fraction of her spotlight. Jasline, my father said, his tone a warning. But I was past warnings. When was the last time any of you asked about my life? I said, looking around the table. My work. Or my goals. When was the last time anyone here celebrated something I did? You never tell us anything, my mother shot back. Because when I do, no one listens. My voice rose despite myself. I've given presentations in front of hundreds of people. I've been promoted 3 times in 5 years. I bought my own flat. And none of you noticed because it wasn't a wedding, wasn't a baby, wasn't something you could brag about at the mosque. That's not fair, Yasmin said, her voice tight. I turned to her and for the first time in my life I didn't soften. Isn't it? Your wedding took up a year of this family's life. A year of planning, shopping, arguing over guest list. I got married 6 months ago, and not one of you noticed I was wearing a ring. My mother's eyes dropped to my hand, currently bare because I'd taken off my ring in the car like I always did before family gatherings. Her face crumpled. You've been hiding this from us for 6 months? I've been protecting my peace, I corrected. The table erupted. Aunt Farida demanded to know who Jacob was. Uncle Rashid asked if he was Muslim. My cousin Layla whispered loudly to her sister that this was insane. Yasmin sat frozen, staring at me like I'd just revealed I was a stranger. And my mother just kept swiping through the photos, her lips pressed into a thin line, tears pooling in her eyes. You should have told us, she said finally, her voice small. Why? I asked. So you could make it about yourselves? So you could criticize my choices? So Yasmin could find a way to make it about her wedding? That's not. It is, I interrupted. It's always been that way. Yasmin is my favorite. I'm the backup. The dependable one. The one who doesn't need attention because she's doing fine. My father stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Enough. But I wasn't finished. I didn't hope to hurt you, I said, quieter now. I eloped because I wanted one day in my life where I wasn't compared to Yasmin. Where I wasn't performing for approval. Where I could just be happy without needing permission. The words hung in the air, sharp and final. My mother set my phone down carefully like it might shatter. I don't know you anymore, she whispered. I stood, picking up my phone and my purse. You never did. I walked out before anyone could respond. No one followed. No one called my name. The cold November air hit my face like a slap, but I didn't cry. Felt light. Unburdened. For the first time in years I'd told the truth and the sky hadn't fallen. Jacob called me as I drove home. How was dinner? I laughed, sharp and slightly unhinged. I told them. Told them what? Everything. There was a pause. Then gently, how do you feel? I thought about it. Free. But freedom, I quickly learned, comes with a price. The messages started that night. My mother, we need to talk. This isn't over. Yasmin. You embarrassed Mom in front of the entire family. What is wrong with you? Aunt Farida, your mother is crying. You should be ashamed. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning my father called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally I answered. Jasline. Baba. Your mother is devastated. I'm sorry she feels that way. You humiliated her. I told the truth. In front of everyone, he said, his voice hard. You made us look like failures as parents. I made you confront the truth, I corrected. That's not the same thing. He sighed long and heavy. This man Jacob. We don't even know him. You never asked. Because you hid him. Because you would have found something wrong with him, I said tiredly. He's not Arab. He's not wealthy. He doesn't come from the right family. It wouldn't have mattered how good he is to me. You would have judged him. My father was quiet for a long moment. Then, come to the house. We need to discuss this properly. There's nothing to discuss. Jasline. I'm married, Baba. It's done. You can accept it or you can keep pretending I don't exist. Either way, I'm not apologizing. I hung up. The family group chat was chaotic. Messages flying faster than I could read them. My uncle demanded I fix this. My aunt posted Quran verses about honoring parents. Yasmin sends passive-aggressive messages about maturity and respect. I muted the chat and blocked half of them. Jacob came home that evening to find me sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. Talk to me, he said gently, sitting beside me. I broke my family, I said. No, he said firmly. You set a boundary. There's a difference. They hate me. They're angry because you stopped playing the role they assigned you. I leaned into him, exhausted. Was I wrong? He kissed my forehead. You were brave. 3 days passed. Then a week. My phone stayed mostly silent, just a few messages from cousins I barely knew, asking what really happened, hungry for gossip. I ignored them all. But then something shifted. It started with a message from my cousin Nadia, Yasmin's best friend growing up. We hadn't spoken in years. Hey, I know this is random, but I think what you did was kind of badass. I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. She sent another. Yasmin's been losing it all week. Your mom too. But honestly, you're right. They never gave you credit for anything. I typed back, thanks. Babe. Just saying. Some of us noticed. It was small. But it cracked something open. Then my colleague Adeyemi stopped by my desk at work. You alright? You've been quiet. I hesitated, then told him a condensed version of Thanksgiving. He listened, then leaned back in his chair. So you got married, didn't tell your family, and then dropped it on them at dinner when they insulted you? Basically. He grinned. That's cold. I respect it. You think I'm terrible. I think you're done being a doormat, he said. Big difference. Over the next few days, more people reached out. Friends, coworkers, even distant relatives. Some were supportive. Some were judgmental. But the surprising part was how many people admitted they'd felt invisible in their own families too. You did what I've wanted to do for years, one cousin messaged. My parents treat my brother the same way yours treat Yasmin, another wrote. It's exhausting. I wasn't alone. And realizing that felt like oxygen. But my mother wasn't done. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, she showed up at my flat unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there, dressed impeccably as always, her face carefully composed. We need to talk, she said. I almost closed the door. But something, curiosity maybe, or the faint hope that she'd finally heard me, made me step aside. She walked in, looked around my flat like she was seeing it for the first time, and sat delicately on the edge of my sofa. This is nice, she said stiffly. Thank you. Silence. Then, your father and I have been talking. And we think we may have been unfair to you. I waited. Yasmin has always been easier, she continued carefully. She needed more attention. You were so independent and capable. We thought you didn't need us. I did need you, I said quietly. I just stopped asking. Her face crumpled slightly, but she held herself together. We want to meet him. Jacob. Why? Because he's your husband, she said as if it were obvious. Because we should have met him months ago. I studied her. She looked tired and older. But there was something performative in her posture, like she was playing the role of repentant mother without fully believing the script. Is this about making things right? I asked carefully. Or about saving face? She flinched. Both maybe. At least she was honest. I'll talk to Jacob, I said. But I'm not promising anything. She nodded, stood and moved toward the door. Then she paused. Yasmin is hurt, you know. She feels like you stole her moment. And there was the real reason for the visit. I laughed, short and bitter. Her moment? She's been having moments for 30 years. I had one. One day that was mine. And even now, you're here asking me to consider her feelings. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter, I shot back. But you've never protected me the way you protect her. My mother's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Neither is spending my entire life being invisible. She left without another word. Jacob and I talked that night. He was hesitant about meeting my family. They sound toxic, he said gently, but he agreed because he knew it mattered to me. Not for them but for me. To prove I hadn't made a mistake. To show them I'd chosen well. We scheduled dinner for the following Saturday. My parents' house. Just them, Yasmin, Omar, Jacob and me. I didn't expect it to go well. I expected judgment, thinly veiled criticism, awkward silences. What I didn't expect was what actually happened. The dinner was set for 7. Jacob and I arrived at 7:15, not late enough to be rude but late enough to make a point. I wasn't performing punctuality anymore. My mother opened the door, her smile tight and rehearsed. Jasline. And you must be Jacob. Mrs. Hassan, Jacob said warmly, extending his hand. It's nice to finally meet you. She shook it, her eyes scanning him quickly. his clean-cut appearance, his respectful demeanor, his expensive watch. I could see her recalibrating in real time. Inside, the house smelled like saffron rice and grilled chicken. The table was set simply. No crystal, no candles, and no performance. My father sat in his usual chair, reading the newspaper. Yasmin and Omar were already there, sitting stiffly on the sofa. "Baba," I said. "This is Jacob." My father stood, shook Jacob's hand once, and sat back down without a word. Yasmin didn't get up. "Hi," she said flatly. Omar at least had the decency to stand and introduce himself properly. Dinner was excruciating. My mother asked Jacob surface-level questions. Where he was from, what he did, how we met. He answered patiently and politely, with the kind of warmth that made me fall in love with him. But the tension never broke. Yasmin barely spoke. When she did, it was to Omar in low murmurs I couldn't hear. Halfway through the meal, my father finally addressed me directly. "Your mother tells me you're upset about how we've treated you." I set down my fork. "I'm not upset, Baba. I'm stating facts." "Facts," he repeated like the word tasted sour. "Yes. You've spent my entire life prioritizing Yasmin. Her wedding. Her marriage and her pregnancy. I'm not asking you to love me more. I'm just asking you to see me at all." Yasmin's fork clattered onto her plate. "This again?" "Yes," I said calmly. "This again." "I'm so tired of you playing the victim," she snapped. "You chose to hide your wedding. You chose to exclude us. And now you're acting like we're the villains." "You are," I said simply. She stood abruptly. "I'm done with this." "Sit down," my father ordered. She sat, glaring at me. Jacob reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. "I didn't come here to fight," I said quietly. "I came here because Mom asked me to. But if you want the truth, here it is. I don't regret eloping. I don't regret keeping my marriage private. Because the one day I got to be the center of my own life without your input and your judgment was the happiest day I've ever had." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "You really think we're that terrible?" "I think you love Yasmin more," I said. "And I think you've spent my whole life expecting me to be okay with that." The room went dead silent. Then Omar, of all people, spoke. "She's not wrong." Everyone turned to him. He looked uncomfortable but continued. "I've been part of this family for 6 years. And I've watched how differently you treat them. Yasmin gets praised for everything. Jasline gets overlooked." Yasmin turned to him, betrayed. "Omar." "It's true," he said gently. "I love you. But your sister has a point." I could have kissed him. My father cleared his throat. "This is complicated." "It's not," I said. "You have 2 daughters. You chose one. I'm just done pretending it doesn't hurt." My mother wiped her eyes. "What do you want from us, Jasline?" "Nothing," I said. "I stopped wanting anything from you a long time ago." I stood. Jacob followed. "Thank you for dinner," I said. "But we're leaving." My mother stood too. "Wait. I'm not cutting you off," I said. "But I'm also not going to keep showing up to be reminded I'm not enough. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be real. Not performative or conditional." I walked out. Jacob followed. And this time as we drove away, I didn't feel angry. I felt done. 3 months passed. I didn't hear from Yasmin. My father sent a brief, formal text wishing me well. My mother called once a week, short, stilted conversations that felt like obligations. But then something unexpected happened. Yasmin went into labor early. Complications. The baby was fine, but she wasn't. She needed surgery, a longer hospital stay, and help at home. My mother called me frantic. "Can you come?" I could have said no. Part of me wanted to. But I didn't do this for revenge. I did it for peace. I showed up. Not because I owed them. But because I'm not them. I helped. I brought meals. I held my nephew while Yasmin recovered. And slowly, quietly, something shifted. One evening, Yasmin and I were alone. She was nursing, exhausted, and I was folding laundry. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I looked up. "I didn't realize how much I overshadowed you," she continued. I thought you were fine. You always seemed fine." "I wasn't," I said. "But I got good at pretending." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," I said gently. "But you can start by seeing me. Really see me? She nodded again. We're not close. Maybe we never will be. But we're trying. And my parents? They're learning. Slowly. My mother asks about my work now. My father actually listens when I talk. Jacob and I hosted them for dinner last month. It was awkward. But it was real. I didn't get revenge. I got boundaries. And sometimes that's the most powerful move of all. If you've ever been the forgotten child, the backup plan, the one they only noticed when you stopped playing along, I see you. Drop a comment if this resonated with you and share this story. You might be helping someone. Subscribe to the channel and like this video because the next story might be the one that changes everything.